Today we have a 20x optical zoom PTZ camera from Tenveo. This can record up to 1080p 60 frames per second. Well, record or send a signal up to 1080p 60 frames per second, and it has HDMI, SDI, USB output, and of course if you want to control it using IP, including streaming directly from the camera, you can still do that. Is it a good camera? Is it a bad camera for you? I don't know yet, but we're gonna find out in this video, so let's go. What's going on, guys? Sam Production tips and tools here, guys. Today I have this PTZ camera that was actually sent to me from Tenveo and been testing it. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of test footage apart from what I have here that I actually am able to record here in my studio. I try to take PTZ cameras maybe somewhere in churches or somewhere else to just get some test footage to show you guys what the image looks like. But this one is gonna be here in my studio because I feel like I have mixed feelings about this camera. Plus, I did not mention that it even supports NDI, which is amazing. So when it comes to features, I feel like some of the things that we are getting now from PTZ cameras, especially budget ones, even the most expensive PTZ cameras, kind of getting repetitive, right? We're always expecting NDI or no NDI, HDMI, SDI, of course, IP for controlling it, or IP streaming, RJ45 and stuff like that. So it's like almost the same thing. Now, this one thing that I actually noticed with this PTZ camera, before I show you what you're gonna get in the box, is I noticed that the user guide, actually they have a really good user guide that I actually appreciate, because it shows you how to use the camera, how to connect it, how to get started. It's well detailed, and I kind of appreciated it about this brand. Usually some cameras that I receive, sometimes I don't have really good user guides and stuff like that. So having this kind of user guide, they even included a user guide for connecting this camera through NDI, and it's a well detailed, showing you step by step how to connect it using NDI, which is amazing. So kudos to Tenveo for doing this. Now when it comes to image quality, of course I'm gonna be showing you some footage. That's where I kind of have mixed feeling without taking much time. This is a quick shot that I have actually set up in front of me. I'm using the same lighting as my DSLR, which is kind of not fair because my DSLR has a bigger sensor and the lens is actually better, interchangeable lens. But you can see that the camera is getting a good image from this kind of lighting condition. I also have a lot of RGB lighting going on in the background, and the camera is kind of doing a good job. It's not super wow, but I feel like it's a decent image. My skin tone, of course you can tweak it, play with the white balance and contrast and stuff like that. Try to get a perfect image. Of course with the exposure as well, try to get a perfect image that looks something nice. You can actually use what's called variable white balance, kind of dial in your own white balance. Although I tried to match my key light and the picture actually was horrible. So I don't know if it needs some sort of firmware upgrade or something. I was trying to match my key light, which is 5600 Kelvin, and I tried to do the same thing, or at least close to that, and the image was just terrible. So I feel like there's an issue there. But other than that, it's gonna come, of course, in the box. You're gonna receive all the necessary accessories you need. This is what the camera looks like. As you can see, the camera looks really nice. It's black, which is great. It feels good. The back, as you can see, you got all the connections. You got SDI, USB input, HDMI, you got Ethernet port, and all the just cool stuff that you would expect. And of course it still supports NDI and PoE, which is amazing. And you get all the accessories, the power brick, the remote controller, including all the cables that you need, including USB and stuff like that. This is everything that you get in the box. They give you a bracket if you want to hang it somewhere on the wall. You're gonna be good to go. Now the remote controller is actually nice. You can use it to control the camera, no problem, especially if you want to kind of do the basic settings, adjust the image colors and stuff like that. However, if you want to get more advanced, actually you're gonna have to follow the manual, use its IP address to actually be able to access the actual interface of the camera and do some tweaking as well. So everything's well detailed in the user guide. Thanks for the user guide because it's amazing, it's well detailed. However, I wished we had the software, because with the software, personally, I feel like when you have a software that you can actually download, kind of search for the camera and then start, you know, tweaking stuff and settings and everything, I think it's better than having to use a web interface. In my opinion, I feel like the web interface is kind of a little more complicated. Sometimes you have to change, although the IP address of the camera is actually on the actual camera, which is amazing too. I appreciate that as well, on the back of the camera. However, sometimes you have to change the camera's IP address. To do that, you have to get a tool that will allow you to change the IP address to be able to match your computer's IP address, and you have to make sure your camera and your computer are all connected, hardwired connected on the same network. So sometimes it can get overwhelming, but again, with the remote controller, you can do some of this stuff, you know, basic stuff, kind of be able to see the image like what I'm doing, which is another way of doing it. So overall, I love the camera. I mean, it's not really expensive. I feel like it's still in a budget friendly kind of range. The image quality, I feel like it is okay. I don't think it's a wow. Look at this. It looks good. All right, it's sharp, no problem. And let's try to pan and tilt. So I feel like the image is great. It's not wow, but it's good. It's usable. But when I zoom in and out with the remote controller, I feel like the image is kind of getting choppy a little bit. At the end of the day, if you want to use a PTZ camera, you want that motion, right? The zooms, you know, you want it to be smooth and you don't want it to be choppy. You want to use that motion for your live streaming, you know what I mean? So let me try maybe to change, maybe it's my exposure. So if I change my exposure to my shutter, instead of having it at 60, we're gonna have it at 90, 100. This is 125. So the gain is up. Yeah, iris is good. We can keep it the way it is. And then return. I still feel like the camera is not smooth, because I thought it was maybe the shutter speed, but it's not. Look at that. I don't like this aspect of it, but other than that, as you can see, the image, it's good. The image looks good. I feel like it's usable, but the movements, I feel like they could be better. I feel like the movements are not smooth. So what you guys are looking at right now is what I've been working on for, you know, the past maybe 3-4 hours. I've been playing with this camera, trying to get it perfect. So again, if you've been using this camera and it's working well for you, let me know. Maybe I've got some settings wrong. If you're gonna get this camera, of course, if you're on a budget, I think I would still recommend this camera. You can still zoom and pan and tilt, but without using that motion for your live streaming. So let's say I'm live, maybe I switch to another camera, and then I can go ahead and zoom in, you know, something like this, and then switch back to my camera. My PTZ camera show a shot of me kind of zoomed in already without showing the kind of motion of me zooming in or zooming out. By the way, it features a Sony CMOS sensor, 1/2.8 sensor size. I'm gonna leave links down below if you are interested in the camera, of course, to Amazon, and you can check it out. I have another camera that's kind of cheaper than this one from AVCams that I reviewed. That one you probably may want to check it out, because again, the image quality is amazing. I've got some test footage from a church and from my office as well. So if you're curious to know what that one is gonna look like, the video is gonna be here. Make sure to check it out, and I'll see you guys there. Take care.